So at the time of recording this video, we are less than a month away from the new generation of consoles, so I thought it'd be a nice idea to look back at the games that have been released since 2013 and make a list of my favourite ones. Now here's a small warning that these games are my personal favourites and in no way the defining list of the best games ever made for the last generation. And when I started this list I had 30 games that stood out to me the most from my library and I had to find a way to dwindle it down to 5. It was super hard, but I found ways to chisel away at the list by making some ground rules. For example, any game released on the PS3 as well as the PS4 will not be on the list, so no GTA 5 or Dragon's Dogma. I will also not be including remasters, however remakes are fair game if built from the ground up, so no Modern Warfare 2 or Skyrim. And after an hour or so of shifting games around and removing things off my list and then re-adding them a couple minutes later, I finally have my top 5 games of the last generation of consoles. And in ascending order we have number 5, God of War. I was really late to the party for this game, it completely slipped through my radar. I didn't even watch any of the trailers because I was so oblivious to its existence. My friend had to basically shove it in my face and tell me it's not like the other games. There's an actual engaging story to follow alongside the new fighting mechanics that completely reinvents and reintroduces God of War to people like me that wasn't all that interested in previous games. God of War takes the simple storyline of father and son bonding session and elevates it to an absurd level where you're delving into the Norse lore fighting dark elves, valkyries and gods. And when it comes to God of War, there really is only one thing to talk about, and that's the Leviathan. For me, I think the Leviathan stole the show. Most likely inspired by Thor's use of his weapons such as Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, Leviathan has a very heavy but eloquent way of fighting. All attacks feel destructive as you plunge your axe into enemies, and just like the good Norse weapon it is, you can call it back so you can reap even more destruction. Number 4 on the list is a kind of game that I originally would never have played if it wasn't for the raving reviews, and that's Resident Evil 2. Before this game, I wasn't a horror game fan. In fact, I hated horror games. I was a bumbling mess when PT was released on the PS4 and only barely made it through the end. But I heard that Resi 2 isn't just another scary game, but somehow can balance its horror with intrigue. The more of it you play, the more of it you want to play. And after playing other Resi titles after this one, it's safe to say that they all have that. But it was Resident Evil 2 that taught me to love horror games. But the thing that most people seem to forget when talking about Resident Evil, that it's also technically a puzzle game. Some of the puzzles in the game are quite meticulous in design but never feel hard. They're perfectly made to seem difficult enough to put thought into solving them but not difficult enough that you need to look up a guide. With all that said, I think Resident Evil 2 is a perfect starting point into the horror genre. Moving on to number 3 in the halfway point on my list, and for that I chose one of my favourite superhero games on the console, Marvel's SpiderMan. It was between this and Arkham City, but since that was a remaster, the web-slinger himself takes 3rd place. And what can I say about this game that hasn't already been said already? But this game really makes you feel like you're Spider-Man. God, I sounded like such an idiot. When the game was first released, I was there day one to pick it up and I spent most of my day playing it relentlessly. It was a game that I genuinely struggled to put down and I even got the Platinum Trophy before the week was even over. I even did that thing that you do when you know you're coming to the end of the story, so you slow down a bit and do side stuff and just explore so you can savour the game just a little bit more and so you don't seem like an absolute loser to your friends who have only just beat the first boss. There's only 2 places left on my list and I thought 2nd place had to go to Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Again, I was very late to Uncharted. Not just Uncharted 4, but the entirety of the Uncharted series. So a couple of years ago I was able to play through all the games back to back from Drake's Fortune all the way to A Thief's End. If you haven't played a single Uncharted game up until now, then I recommend you sit down and play every single one of them so you can experience this game to its fullest. There are so many reasons why this game made it so high up on my list, one of which is the graphical update that it's received compared to the previous Uncharted games. The characters look a lot more detailed this time around, as you can see every single wrinkle and crease in their face, and not only that, but the environments look so lush, from the wet mud you get dragged through to the beautiful islands of the Caribbean. I mean, look at that water. But the game stands out the most due to being the conclusion of Nathan Drake's story. I can't see it being as effective for people who would just dive into this game without playing the others, but playing the other games help give this one even more weight to it. A Thief's End is a pleasure to play and has a satisfying resolution to a near perfect franchise. Before we move on to my personal favourite game of the console generation, I just want to show you some of the games that I wanted to put on the list but they didn't make the final cut.
Vampire.
Is it 1358 yet?
No.
Then fuck off.
But if you know anything about the Finch family, you know the stories have at least one thing in common. Someone always dies at the end.
Oh, and avoid the bat symbol. It's a little trick. It's where his armor's the strongest. Aim for the weak spots at the shoulders first, then coordinate fire at the points where the plates meet.
The decreed hour is come. Set forth with my blessing, Prince Noctis.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Take your leave and go in the grace of the gods.
Get down here, Merc.
And now the game that I think deserves the #1 spot of my favourite game of the last console generation goes to Red Dead Redemption 2. It's really difficult for me to see any other game on this spot. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is a perfect story full of ups and downs. It's a great depiction of a down-to-earth version of a cowboy game with a Game of Thrones type thinking of anyone is fair game for death. No one is safe. Yup, even that one that you like. And the world that Rockstar created is one that you can truly lose yourself in, and you can live your life as if you lived in that era yourself. You can choose to be a bloodthirsty outlaw who robs from trains and kills every single witness they see, or you can be a family man who cares for his camp, or you can be both. And the details can be so minute as well. You can choose how Arthur responds to literally every single person you see. You can be nice and offer a friendly howdy, or you can be an asshole who calls someone out for just looking at him. There's really not much bad I can say about this game. The story grabbed me, the characters intrigued me, and the world consumed me. And that's why Red Dead Redemption 2 is on the top of my list. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And why not turn on the notification bell as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.